Hello, everybody, and welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Pallavito. I'll be your moderator today, and we're going to be discussing the writer's strike and, of course, artificial intelligence replacing the writers. And with that, we're going to bring in a writer himself, a former writer for Jimmy Kimmel Live, a person who can probably give us some insights to this story, Rick Rosner.
Hey.
You're going to be the point man today on the day's show, but I'm going to bring in the other guests so they can throw the points at you. The president of the Pod TV network, Kim Calhoun. And we're also going to bring in from the left coast, the head of the Eid Foundation, James Eid. And then, of course, as we head to Canada, we'll bring in Sasha Starr. So with that, we have this writer's strike. Looks like all the writers are unemployed, something you might be familiar with, Rick. But can they all be replaced by artificial intelligence? And we just don't need writers anymore. Give us some insights on that, please.
I tried working with AI to see if it was helpful, and it's like having your least imaginative friend fill in the blanks for you, which is, and it'll only get better. I mean, a year ago, we didn't even know about AI, but there's always room for cliches on TV and in movies. You may not like them, but I don't know, like you're driving and then you see in the rearview mirror and another car behind you and somebody says, "We've got company." You've heard that line 50 million times. Somebody wants somebody else to hurry up, so they say chop, chop. And it annoys me because it's so lazy, but lazy writing happens. It's sucky to watch, but yeah, there's AI is a threat.
Okay, well, how soon is this threat going to take place? In other words, I know the writers went on strike. Okay,
Yeah.
And as you listen to any show, at least when I listen to shows, I'm going, this is really good writing. Any moron could be the actor. Seriously, yeah. And then all the money goes to the actor, and the writers don't get paid. What gives there in Hollywood? I mean, the fact is, any person can say the line if you give them a good line, and the people that write the lines are they shrug their shoulders and they're ignored. What's the story there?
Well, there's a contrary point of view there, Nick, and I've watched plenty of shows where I thought the writing was terrible, and it was very predictable, and I would turn it off before the end, even though it was like supposed to be the commercial before the culminating scene. I knew what was going to happen. The writing was terrible. So I think what we have to emphasize here is creativity and good writing. Can that be replaced by artificial intelligence? Right now, it can't. There's no two ways about it. But remember when computer chess first started, how terrible the computers were?
Yeah, they were absolutely horrible. The programs
were terrible. And they got better and better. And soon they got to the point where they were not just competent, they were better than human beings. So is that possibility? I have no idea. None of us have any idea.
Yeah, like one objection to AI has been that to get an AI smart enough to speak reasonable English, you have to spend $50 million training it. And not just money, but a ton of electricity. Like with crypto, all this computation, it takes a lot of power. But over a couple of days ago, I tried an AI that had cost $300 to train. Nothing. And it spoke competent English. It gave logical responses. And so, yeah, AI is going to get cheaper. It's going to get more competent.
Yeah, and if it does get cheaper and more competent, Rick, aren't the writers in Hollywood that are on strike all out of a job?
Well, there are several issues. One is that the last strike was at the beginning of 2008. It lasted 100 days. And it was, one of the issues was all the new media, including streaming. And so the producers grudgingly gave, not the studios grudgingly gave writers a little bit of money for streaming. Now streaming is everything. It's Hulu, it's Netflix, it's Disney Plus, and these prestige. Also, in the old days, a season might be 26 episodes or even 39 episodes in a year. Now, a season might be 8 episodes.
6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got streaming being the predominant home of quality TV, and it pays very little. And you have these short seasons, which keep writers employed for a very short time. So these are the other issues that are going on.
Yes, and the situation has entirely changed. And Rick, as we would have expected, put his finger on it. You know, it's the world of streaming now, and so it's a different ball game. If you were a writer for something like Seinfeld, for example, you had job security. You knew where the next paycheck was coming from, and when it went into syndication, you got residual checks. So this was a way to have a comfortable middle class lifestyle as a writer, you know, as a creative being on this planet. And nowadays, they not only have these 6 to 8 episode kind of gigs where you're out of work almost as soon as you begin and you're scrambling for the next job. The streaming doesn't pay residuals. Companies like Netflix don't go into syndication. They go overseas and they expand. They have subscriber based, but they don't pay for the shows that you wrote. They don't pay you anymore, even though new people are watching them. So this is a different ballgame, and the writers have absolutely a reason to complain about the way that the companies are treating them. However, you know, the question of AI is separate. There's the big difference between can they be replaced, and if you want to be daytime soap operas, I would say yes, sooner probably rather than later.
And
but
what you can use,
I would say no.
A danger of AI is to use it for a first draft. You go to AI, say, write me, you know, a spy movie. 3 minutes later, you've got a 120-page screenplay about spies, and it sucks, and every line sucks, and the plot twist sucks. But you have a basic structure where, you know, the studio can say, here's our script. You guys come in for a week and punch it up. Make the situations more exciting, make the lines less sucky. They paid a couple writers for a week. They didn't, you know, and there's arbitration under the guild where to decide who gets credit, they'll go through and they'll count the lines. How many pages did you work on? How many lines? And if AI is the primary author, then it's bad for, you know, the punch-up guys who come in for a couple grand for 1 week of employment. And yeah, there's a lot of ways that it can be abused.
So, but it sounds to me overall, it's going to be a declining industry. In other words, the screenwriters, they're going to be basically taken over by bots. It's just a matter of time.
Not if we can get some protections.
But why would you want to protect an industry?
One of the things that pisses off writers is that the writers are asking for, you know, the changes in rates that would total $500 million over the period of the next contract, which is, I think the contracts run for 3 years. And then you look at the guy who runs Warner Communications, Zaslow. He made, I think, $264 million last year. So the top 6 CEOs in entertainment made over $700 million last year. And we're asking $460 million over 3 years for all the writers.
Yeah, so why are the writers so greedy, Rick? That's the problem.
Yeah, they're greedy because they want a living wage, just like all unions have since the beginning of the industrial age.
At any given time, only half of the writers are employed. So what seems like a great salary for the 3 weeks you're employed is a sucky salary if you don't get employed again for 24 more weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a bad business to be in. Why are the writers in the business? Why don't they go do something else?
Well, the thing is, entertainment, Nick, is something
the Democratic head of
we
the
devour. We devour entertainment.
The head of the Democratic Party told me one time. He goes, "Well, you're a smart guy. You can go do another job." That's what he said. We were telling him about how their fiduciary rule was just going to put everybody on
the horse there. We're saying it's a bad job. No, it's not a bad job it's a bad job if it's treated a certain way. It can be a good job. It can create a living wage, and it can inspire creative thinking. And the way it's structured right now is working against it. So what do? We restructure it. We don't abandon the job because we say they'll be replaced by AI. Well, do you want plain oatmeal every day for breakfast? Because that's what you're going to get for a long time if you abandon the creative writers. Now you have to structure it so that they can make a living wage. Is that so outrageous thing to ask for? I don't think so, and I don't think the average American thinks so.
Yeah, but it should go on, Rick.
Well, there's another issue, which is you need writers to become showrunners and producers, and to do that they need experience. If you go in with I can see shows. We've all seen shows, reality shows that are produced by people who don't come from the creative side, and they can be infuriating in their suckiness. You need to create.
Not that they don't have an audience, but
yeah. Okay. We'll listen to Sasha.
You need people with decades of experience in the system to create the best work and understand how to translate that work onto the screen.
It's a craft.
Okay. Sasha.
I would like to take historic perspective. I've never heard that people like Shakespeare or Dickens would go on strike. If they had something to say, they were writing their great plays and poetry or other art pieces. And in my opinion, the writers of Hollywood today, they're part of the business. It's a normal thing for them to trying to get more wages, regardless what they're creating or not creating. And the same thing like minimum wages for workers at McDonald's or any food chains. I don't see really that great difference. And especially now, if artificial intelligence will take a more and more role in creative process, which is happening as we speak, I think that writers have to reevaluate actually their position in so-called entertainment food chain and be realistic that indeed their profession is in danger, and probably only the best of them will survive and make even more money than normally. But a lot of people there will be really out of jobs. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think you made one good point and one bad point. That it's not Shakespeare or Dickens that we're talking about here. We're talking about a giant industry, cranking out show after show after show after show.
So there's no creativity; it's just
completely
business.
Different situation.
Business.
However, I do agree with you that there will be the cream will rise to the top, and they're going to make it anyways. And what we're talking about is whether or not the industry requires a broader base. And I would argue that for quality, it does. What Rick was just talking about, having experience, knowing how to produce a show, how to make it happen. It's a craft. And very few people have that ability to make a good quality, entertaining show. We have 500 channels and sometimes there's nothing to watch. So you want to crank something out that is miserable to watch for anybody with a modicum of intelligence, then yeah, we can do that. Absolutely, they've proven it already. But do we want to produce quality? There's no shortcut around it. AI is not going to solve it, not for a while. Maybe someday, but not for a while. And we got to get back to the fact of the matter. These people require a living wage in order to be able to produce the material that we want to watch.
Okay, so there's 5,500 channels, nothing to watch.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Speaking of things to watch, and we've got all kinds of great things to watch here on this network. But I do have a question to ask
we don't have script writers. We don't have
script writers. No script. We have people that sometimes script out their content as the way that they are going to have the show go. So they have like show runs, but it is not necessarily script writers, and it is usually the hosts themselves that are doing that. And there's only a few of those that have that strategy, but there are some that have that particular strategy. But I did have a question that is somewhat related, but not totally. But there was this major event that was a major media event. Matter of fact, I was talking to one friend and they were complaining because they couldn't find anything but this event on the television. And I will not lie, I did put it on our network for about an hour, hour and a half, and all in that space because we had some downtime. So I went ahead and found it from the Royal Channel. But I heard some people that were actually complaining because to Rick's point, to Jim's point, they were complaining because they were like, we did all of this. We remember some of the other coronations, those who were fortunate enough to live through them and everything. And with all of the technology, with all the pizzazz that can exist in the world, there were some people, and that's why I wanted to hear Rick's thoughts, that were like, this had to be one of the most boring coronations of all time, and all in that space. So I did hear that complaint on Clubhouse and some other spaces where they were going like, yeah, the music was just all right. It was some all right classical. It wasn't great classical. And it was some all right other performances. Of course, you had the pomp and circumstance that would oftentimes be with a coronation and all in that space. But I did have somebody that literally told me that they were frustrated because every channel they turned on was literally the king's coronation and all in that space.
Well, that brings up that we're all spoiled. That back when we were kids and there were only 3 channels, we kind of took what we could, what they gave us, and we weren't thrilled, but that's all we had. Now everybody's seen everything, and we are impatient with, like the big award shows that everybody used to watch, the Oscars, the Emmys, their ratings steadily decline because we don't need big, we've got so many choices. We don't need appointment event television anymore.
No, and Rick, to that point, apparently
Well,
the
and it
person that was
also
making the
became
complaint wanted flying
tasteless
elephants.
entertainment. It became
Sasha.
tasteless. People just started becoming very rude. Yeah, go ahead, Sasha.
I would like to mention that the best programming on television today is something, for example, sport. It doesn't need any writers whatsoever. And they're very exciting program, whether it's basketball or hockey or
unscripted drama.
So on. It attracts tens of millions of people. They don't need any writers or anybody else, and they're doing just fantastically well. So I think the
That's true.
writers who are on strike now, they have to reevaluate their position. Maybe they should actually keep away from TV, period, and just do their own shows. And I think, Rick, you hit it right when you said that most of them, or at least the best of them, should think about their role as producers of whatever they're writing, the script. And this way, they will not have to be on strike in any case.
Well,
But I
but
wanted to
AI is
go
going
to
to affect producing also. You can go online and you
Directors.
can see a movie trailer made by AI, a beer commercial, and a pizza commercial, all made by AI. Obviously, I mean, when you watch them, you see that they've had lots of human input. But the AI will take over more and more, or will have the ability to take over more and more creative tasks.
Well, let me tell you
Okay.
how stupid this whole industry is. The CEO made an announcement, and we talked about this last week, that they're going to generate AI to replace tens of thousands of employees for IBM. So the IBM employees are engineering their own replacement, this is not the first time they've ever done that. They did this when they outsourced all of the jobs to India or China. So it's not the first time, but here's some tips, guys. Instead of engineering AI to replace your own job, replace the CEO's job. engineer it to replace the
No.
CEO. We need better leaders. We
No.
need better, CEOs. We need a better president. Can we get an avatar of a really good president and get some AI in there?
No, but part of the thing, well, I don't know if I'm ready for AI leadership.
CEO.
No,
I'm not ready for AI leadership, even though that's probably on the way.
An idiot to even announce it. I would
Kim,
quit my
Kim,
job. I would go on
Replace
strike.
the talk
Kim, are you
show
sure that
people
hasn't already
with
happened? 'Cause I'm
avatars.
I can't hear both of you.
that there aren't some fakes out there that are doing the whole speeches and everything else, because there might be AIs and robots that are literally playing the role of Trump and Biden and DeSantis right now. For all I know, this whole war with Disney could be an AI battle. It might be DeSantis, the fake DeSantis, going up against Donald Trump, which we know is a cartoon character and all in that space. So for all we know, that may already be existing. But, to Sasha's point, and I wanted to get to this and everything, there's this notion that I know you talk about, Kim, a lot, which is if it bleeds, it leads. And so one of the leading stories in the sports world was not this race that I've oftentimes said that I have fancied going to because of the wonderful parties and the fact that it seems to be a great social event, that being the Kentucky Derby. But the big news in the Kentucky Derby now is the fact that about 7 of the horses died and were put to death because of their breaking legs, doing a number of other things. So now one of the oldest sports, a sport that is sometimes considered the sport of kings. Well, next year is supposed to be their 150th anniversary. Will they make it to 150? They had already had some troubles. So the question is whether they will actually make it to 150 because of the latest battles in that space. And we'll have to see what happens with the Belmont and the Preakness, the other two legs of the Triple Crown. But that was the big story that was coming out of the sports world was, yeah, we had a winner and the winner was declared and everything. But there were about 8 other horses that were laid to rest because of everything from some mistreatments of the horses to leg injuries to a number of other.
A different topic. We can have a different show on that because that opens up a whole.
We should also
bring it back to AI because AI will disrupt it'll disrupt everything along with sports because AI will come up with new treatments to make athletes more athletic. People will be able to input chips that will increase their abilities, and we'll have to sports will change, and we'll have to figure out are leagues going to allow these modifications. We're also looking at widespread. All right, 2016, people elected Trump because of economic insecurity, among other things. They were pissed off about job losses. Some of those job losses were due to AI, and that will get more and more severe, and it's going to disrupt every economic system.
Absolutely.
when people are widely underemployed, we have to figure out how to get money to everybody who's underemployed to keep the entire economy functioning.
Otherwise, there's fighting in the streets.
Well, you've got things like minimum basic income. Are we going to do that? Are we going to pay people just to be consumers? Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, and we're talking about the writers in this particular case, but it's a generalized problem for society. And again, what we want to talk about is giving people a living wage so that they can live a decent, desirable life, not wealth, not having all sorts of yachts and more things, more material possessions than the guy next to you. That's not the point. The point is, can you live with dignity? And do we provide jobs that allow you to do that? And I think that is probably the goal of the government that we elect people to, is to be able to do that. And now industry does not have that goal. Industry has profit as the goal. So, we have to have them, there has to be some sort of marriage here between what we can accept as a society and the money-making aspects of these companies. Now, Netflix is going to say, hey, look, I'm subscriber-based. I don't care if anybody gets paid. I produce the content, and the more people that sign up for it, the better my company is. And I don't care about anything else. And from a Netflix point of view, that's perfectly okay. I've got no problem with their point of view. However, it has an effect on the quality of everything that is produced if it is not managed properly in terms of society. And where do you do that? How do you have that conversation with the Netflix CEO who may or may not care? Look at
But
Elon
isn't part of the
Elon
problem?
Musk has done to Twitter.
Yeah, but
I
isn't
read
part
a
of the
couple
problem that-
essays that say that corporations were the first AIs. They act like, you know, entities out in the world, and they have no conscience.
That's right. They're legal.
Are you talking about the Republican Party, Rick? Or-
It's not just Republicans or the Democrats. Isn't
Oh,
part of
wait,
the
wait, I'm
problem
sorry.
that, I mean, isn't part of the problem that
All the ones
exists?
that are bought by the companies. Yes.
No, I hear what you're saying, but isn't part of the problem also something that, and I'd love to hear Sasha's thoughts because he's in that investment space, is that too often the media companies have become major monopolies. Rick, you know this. I know this as well because I've definitely done work in radio and everything, not so much commercial radio, but I have friends in that space. And let's think about radio and commercial radio. Once you get past Live Nation and Clear Channel and maybe one or two other players like Radio One, how many other players are there? Which is why I literally can turn on my radio right now on the R&B station, and I can almost guarantee that the same songs that I'm hearing here in Durham, North Carolina, are what are playing there in California, where you and Jim are, and it's probably the same ones playing in Canada because they are oftentimes even owning stations in various parts of the world, not just here in the United States. So there are some major monopolies. We said that we busted up the whole baby bells with the telephone. I sometimes think that we might need to bust up some of these monopolies in the media space, and you can use the same thing in the television industry. You can use the same thing in the movie industry, but there are a number of these industries that are very big monolithic monopolies. They're not even just regular monopolies. They're monolithic monopolies. If you look at Live Nation owns the venue, they own in some cases the radio station, and they own the artists. So I mean that's pretty much your entertainment trifecta right there and everything. So they own the venue, the performer, and the means of getting it out there. And
all right,
everything
I'm
in that
sorry
space.
to say that most radio is terrible. How
Mm-hmm.
often these days you just turn on the radio to be entertained? Not, you turn on the radio when you're desperate. You're in a rental car and you need something. But because of conditions in radio, some of which you're talking about, a lot of talent has moved on because who wants to have a radio career? If you can have a more rewarding career elsewhere, and that leaves a lot of jackasses filling the radio
Well,
airways.
isn't that the same thing with writers? I mean, I know that Jim thinks they're, quote, entitled to a living, but I don't think they are.
I
think
didn't use that word, Nick,
entitled-
and it's wrong of you to put that word in my mouth.
I thought you'd like that word.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean-
I think they're entitled to go get another job somewhere else.
But
Yeah,
people,
sure.
a lot of people,
That's
They're
how
going to be
one way look
displaced.
at it, and then forget about quality.
You know. Well,
lot
the
of
thing
creatives,
is, if
I
quality
mean,
was
there's
so
two-
important, then
there are
somebody
two-
would pay them for it. But obviously, they believe that the quality is not that important because otherwise the
Well, we
studio
do have these Survivor and those types of shows out there that don't take any talent. You're absolutely right. There's an audience for them, but this is the problem: is they're going to it's a pendulum swinging too far, and they're going to go, we got a lot of CREP.
But Jim,
on
how
the
much is that pendulum swung? We had the pleasure of last week having Jim Meskimen on the show, and his mother was the mother on Happy Days, that being played the role of Mrs. C. But we've had all these reboots and all in that space. There has been a reboot of The Equalizer, a reboot of MacGyver, a reboot of Hawaii Five-0, a reboot of The Love Boat, a reboot of this and that. So are there no original ideas out there from
Well,
our
those
TV
shows are
writers,
for
or
old
do we
vets,
just have
those
to
are
continue
from-
to doing these reboots? And I'm not saying that I don't watch the reboots, because I'd be lying if I said that. But
those shows are familiar products for old people who are less tolerant of novelty, and they run on the broadcast networks like CBS, which has comforting shows for an older demographic. Also, a reboot can reinvent something and subvert it. Like 21 Jump Street was a drama, a hokey drama, one of Fox's first shows 30 years ago. And then they remade it as comedies with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. But the deal is that a lot of creative people move into creative industries out of love for those products, the things that they saw and that were blown away by when they were kids.
It comes through when a creative genius takes their love for the product and makes it available to the masses. People know it and people enjoy it so much more than all this stuff that is just cranked out over and over and over again. And you might a different, layer on this, a second layer of lettuce on your sandwich. It's the same sandwich. Come on.
Don't we have it over on Pod TV? It's great that we have it on Pod TV.
Disney is known for like squeezing all the juice out of its employees, just working them, working them super hard. And Disney employees, a lot of them, they put up with it because they love Disney products. Disney it's what they're fighting with DeSantis about. Disney is about love and inclusion and high levels of creativity and quality. And if you can be part of that, yeah, you'll put up with having your ass worked off. And there's also the crazy wage pyramid in entertainment where, people do it for love, but they also do it to hoping that they get to be the CEO who's making $80 million, $150 million a year eventually.
Or the head writer.
Rick, I would like to say that you made me thinking about buying Disney stock. It's now, just coming back to your comment about radio, I agree with you that radio is becoming, actually, if I'm listening in my car, which is, by the way, is not rental car, when I'm listening to, say, weather report, maybe I will turn on to radio. Other than that, I would use my time to listen to, say, podcasts on
NPR,
Yahoo, or YouTube more often. And the only thing is when I will not do that, because if I'm driving on a highway 160 kilometers per hour, I will not be able to do that. I will be too busy driving. So in this case, I will turn on to radio to see what's going on there. It's pathetic. Now, speaking about something else, a lot of people are doing their work or their activities just for a pure love of that. I never heard about chess players going on a strike. Simply because a lot of them are not very good chess players, and therefore, they can go on strike. Let's see, if you got tournament, say 5 games, and you have 0 out of 4, you may probably forfeit your 5th game because it doesn't matter anymore. But I never heard them going out of strike. So if these writers are really trying to elaborate and do creation of love, why would they go on strike?
Well, Major League Baseball went on strike, and so we have seen all of these professional athletic leagues go on strike, and labor negotiations is part of American history. We go back to the 1890s, and there was a steelworkers union that had their heads busted by the Pinkertons, and the Pinkertons were then called the hired thugs, and that's what they were, a paramilitary corporate-owned operation that came in and busted up unions. And what were the steelworkers trying to do? They were just trying to have a life of dignity. And what did they get with the unions? They got it. And the Pinkertons were outlawed in Ohio, for example, because it was just not right for a company to hire paramilitary wing to come in and bust the heads of the people that were on strike.
Jim, you're old enough to remember air traffic controllers strike.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Can you compare the work what they are doing with the writers of TV shows?
No, Sasha, no. But the point I'm trying to make is it was because of the unions, because of these labor negotiations, that we got a middle class. And before that, there were the rich and the poor. And we created a middle class because of these labor disputes, people fighting for workers' rights. Now, it's been abused, no question about it. But the corporations have the upper hand, and the unions have had their fangs pulled, and they're no longer a political force that they once were, maybe going back 40, 50 years. But that's not been true for a long time. And so what we're really seeing is the pendulum has swung to the corporations again, and that workers have to fight for their rights. And we see this over and over and over again. And the people making the arguments, well, go work someplace else. You know, those are the arguments they used against the steelworkers in the 1890s. It's the same old arguments, and they're wrong for the same old reasons.
And so I should
Writers
tell
Guild, the Writers Guild literally saved my life through quality medical insurance. I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, and if I want tests done, I can go to I can say, I think I need this test. And some of the tests I've ordered were ridiculous, except they found stuff in me that needed to be taken out. And if you go to a Writers Guild event, a movie screening, you'll see old people because they have, more so than because the writers, well, you don't get killed by writing. You don't fall off a skyscraper, so there aren't the health risks, but also we have decent insurance that everybody should have, and it keeps us alive longer. And everybody should have the right to, not die for economic reasons.
Okay, if the writers are so great and wonderful, why doesn't the industry recognize it and accede to their demands?
Because they kind of forget. They be like, as I said, the last strike ran for a little more than 14 weeks. And at the beginning, everybody was cool. They had a lot of TVs and movies stockpiled to show. And then it's the same reason why I think this strike will run into September before it's solved, because there's still a lot of product to roll out. But when they run out of product, then they'll freak out and they'll have to grudgingly go back to the negotiations.
The daily soap operas are canned, so they're going to run for a while. And then when they run out of them, people will start to complain. And that's when the corporations start to listen, when the customer starts to complain. Because
the late night shows are all gone now. Yeah. The Kimmels, the Fallon.
Yeah, they're gone right now. Yeah.
But those shows, compared to 50 years ago, when 30 million people would watch Johnny Carson every night, there was nothing else. There was Johnny Carson, and then there was Tom Snyder. Nobody wanted to watch Tom Snyder. Nobody wanted to watch Cabot. But that 30 million out of a population of 200 million, now the late night shows are each pulling 1 million out of a population that's 60% higher. So people don't feel the lack.
Do you have any idea what Cabot and Snyder's numbers were? Because I vaguely remember Snyder. Dick Cabot I did occasionally watch. I can't say that I did not ever see
I'd say that they probably pulled less than a fifth of what Carson pulled.
Oh, yeah. Carson dominated. Yeah. Yeah. I did watch Cabot, but yeah. It was an acquired taste.
Cabot
was definitely an acquired taste.
On the air he wasn't popular enough to. I think he was only on like 3 nights a week most of the time.
And his interviews were great.
He only lasted for like a year. They put him on for a year, and then ABC would be like, it's just not working. They'd take him off, and then nothing else would work. And another year later, they'd throw him back onto the air.
How long did the Smothers Brothers live and were on the air? Because they did a lot of stuff around political stuff and everything.
They were on 3 or 4 years, but they kind of canceled themselves because they were so angry at network censorship. They would not back down. They were belligerent in wanting what we now consider very tame things.
Yeah.
Back then the censorship was much heavier.
I love the South Park producers. They were coming out with a movie, and the censors wouldn't let them name it what they wanted. So they finally got it. They get more and more outrageous, and they came out with Bigger, Better, Uncut, or something like that was the name of the movie, and it got by the censors, and they were just thrilled.
Well, the Laughing used to get by the censors, and I used to love Laughing, and that was a show that definitely got by the censors, even though it had some very much political content and definitely
we're dating ourselves.
of that time.
Laughing was the best, Gilda. Goldie Hawn was on that.
Goldie Hawn, Lily
there's-
Tomlin in that big rocking chair, and a number of other things. Hey, Nick, I wonder, are we going to be acquiring Reverie? Because apparently Reverie is
Ooh.
billing itself as the world's largest and most inclusive multicultural streaming network, and they were at a activity called Newsfront, which was their way of putting themselves out there. But apparently they are very much in that LGBTQIA space, and was founded in 2015 by 4 friends that are in that space because they saw this as a void in the media marketplace for stories about and by their LGBTQ plus community. So I just want to know, are we going to be targeting Reverie, since they are doing apparently quite well and have some growth in their revenue and all in that space? So do they need to be worrying about us, or do we just going to be alone in doing whatever they're doing in that kind of space that they feel has got a void?
I don't know anything about it. Reverie, maybe Jim or Rick knows something about Reverie. Is that what you call it?
No, I don't.
Reverie.
Okay, so how about Sasha? You know anything about Reverie? Okay.
Never heard of
So Mark,
They don't have a
nobody
stock
here,
option.
nobody here knows who the heck they are. Why would we want to work with them? Okay, in other words, we don't know who they are.
Well, apparently this is their quote. None of Reverie's big plans came to fruition without financing. So apparently they have some financing. Kermit the Frog told us it's not easy being green, and it's not always easy to raise it either. So Reverie has
Right.
secured roughly $5 million to date and is now closing an additional round of bridge financing and expects to head to the financial market later this year for its Series A funding. So apparently they're
Yeah.
going after that Series A funding that I
Well,
know
this gives us
you've
a
been
good
exploring
idea
as well.
of the niche marketing that's going on now. Because if you can own a network and get a certain amount of audience, and we're talking about all the old rules are no longer applicable.
Right.
The old rules of entertainment used to be, Rick pointed out when we used to have 3 channels, and you had rabbit ear antenna in order to get them. And
Jim,
these,
it's time of modern financing, okay?
pardon?
It's a time of modern
Yes.
finance.
So you can
Yeah.
have you have a new way of looking at all of these things. And what we haven't figured out yet as a culture is how do you get productive, well-paying jobs? Because the jobs that are being eliminated, and they're being eliminated for good reasons. Technology has that effect. We talked about the steam engine, how that, people used to make buggy whips. This is part of progress. Progress happens and jobs go away. And you have to retrain yourself for new jobs. But
Nick, I've got great news for you from the world of media. Apparently, the big tech giant Amazon announced today the launch of its new unit, Amazon MGM Studio Distribution, which will allow the company to license Amazon originals and other titles to third-party media companies, which could include streaming services and cable TV. So I guess we can pick up such shows as The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Borat, subsequent movie film Coming to America, Goliath, Hunters, The Tender Bar, The Tomorrow War, The Voyeurs, and
But do the
Without
writers get
Remorse,
residual?
because apparently they are making themselves available in this space.
No, but the thing is, we can acquire them for our movie channel. Since we actually right now have 4 channels that we run on Roku. We have a movie channel, a children's movie channel. We have the talk shows, which is what this one group is. And then we have a special event show. So we could actually acquire them for the movie channel and then run them on Roku, Amazon Fire, and the other places around through Facebook, except Facebook keeps knocking us off. And the other one, LinkedIn, and LinkedIn lets us run all the time. So we could end up doing that. That would be something that would be positive. And no, the writers will not get residuals. Okay,
Right,
there's-
the general problem with AI is that for 10,000 years, humans have been the alpha brains on the planet, the smartest creatures on the planet. And within 100 years, less than that, we will have to live with no longer being the smartest entities on the planet.
Chess
And
players
we'll-
already done that.
chess players have already done that. The
Yeah.
best chess players are computers.
And I mean,
Yeah,
you're
people
still able
still
to play
watch
chess,
chess
but it's weird because now the best players aren't human.
Yeah, that-
I've always thought of chess, or I've thought of chess as a trick played on smart people by dumb people. Let's give smart people something that will take a lot of time and attention so they don't go into real estate and disrupt because I'm a
It's true.
dumb realtor.
There's
And
so
if
much
smart
They
people-
don't go into investing.
Yeah, so it's a
don't
little
go into
place. You
anything
guys
productive.
go over here and be smart and leave us alone to be. And now we're all going to be the dumb people, and we're going to be begging the world to treat us nicely, even though we no longer run the world.
Hey, speak of the world just arrived. Dr. Sharif just came in from, I don't know if he's in Malaysia now or he's in
I'm in Dhaka.
Bangladesh and Dhaka. Where the heck are you?
He's
I'm in
Dhaka,
Bangladesh, Dhaka.
You're where?
I'm in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Dhaka. Okay. Well, since this is one of your few shots on the media show, tell us a little bit about yourself, since some of these people don't know.
I think your friend, Mr. Homestoner, already visited Bangladesh. He go to the Prime Minister office. He visited largest university like Dhaka University. Those have around 40,000 students. It's Oxford of South Asia. I know Professor Nick, actually alumni of Oxford University. He visited economic zone, like all of the revelations we are doing beside the shows. He visited. We are developing around 300 companies in Bangladesh and in India. We are developing 15,000 entrepreneurs. So Mr. Homestoners and his team, they visit. I wish all of our friends from the port televisions, they will visit Bangladesh and they will bring more prosper, more opportunity for us. And that is the things. I'm actually enjoying the emerging economy. Right now, we have a lot of challenges. So when there is a challenges, you have opportunity to solve the problem. So I think this is a great moment for everyone to do something exceptional. And this way we are growing, we are continuously improving, and we finish our 900 episodes. We are developing high quality research projects and developing startup. So hopefully our community also enjoying our activities.
Hey, coming back to the conversation, I'd love to hear Sharif's thoughts about this because I know he's had some shows around AI and everything. But apparently, there was an article in Forbes recently, I think it was published earlier today, that talked about the super influencers. And we know that there are super influencers that are out there in terms of physical influencers, but now there are AI super influencers. So apparently, the AI has also got into the notion of influencing us and all of that. So the article was talking about the widespread skillful manipulation of people by AI super influencers. So you're not even being influenced by an actual person, you're being influenced by the AI and all in that space. So rather than taking ordinary people and those dumb bots, they're doing the
Dumb bots.
smart influencers and all in that space. So apparently the AI super influencers are much smarter than the dumb bots and all in that kind of way. So what are we thinking about this notion of there being super influencers that are coming from the world of AI and are basically, telling us what to buy, telling us what to get, and all in that space? As a matter of fact, there was a whole documentary called The Social Dilemma documentary that was on Netflix, and the idea is that a slot machine at a casino, like TikTok, is programmed to keep you hooked as long as possible. So maybe that's what we need. We need a slot machine, TikTok kind of AI to keep everybody geared right here on the Pod TV so that we get those numbers from the millions that Nick has reported that we have to the billions that we are shooting for. Since I know we need more global media domination. So we're going to use the artificial intelligence AI influencer.
You need one of the AI sexy ladies from Twitter to host a show. Twitter has started to have very bombshell ladies who aren't real, but have big followings because they're so beautiful and friendly, and they don't exist. But if you could put a sexy lady filter on any of us and have a successful show.
Well, apparently there is a lady
By
called
the way,
Mia.
Rick may have a point. But Dr. Sharif, as we're working artificial intelligence to replace everybody, including us on the show. So Rick has decided to create a beautiful, perfect woman to be the host of the show. And of course, then our ratings will skyrocket. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. Sharif? And then you'll be replaced by this beautiful woman who's going to be doing the show, who's artificial intelligent, of course. And I'm not sure what you're going to do for a living over there in Dhaka. Yeah.
Okay. This is very interesting topic. Actually, I'm working with Professor Adrian David Chiok last few years about this artificial intelligence improvement. And he also believe, I think your friend, Professor David Levy, also believe in the future human got married robots. And
Okay,
this
wait.
is their
You
concept.
stop. Hold on. You just said a word that half this audience will understand. Dr. Levy. Okay.
David
Can you
Levy.
explain who Dr. Levy is? Because he wrote a lot of chess books, didn't he?
Yeah, Dr. Levy is a famous scientist and he's a chess player. And
Mhm.
he's also chair with me in Nikola Tesla Technology Conference. So I know him from our scientific communities. But he also know you. I think he's your friend. Yeah.
Mhm.
So their concept is that in between 2050s, people, a man gonna marry a robots, and maybe there is a chance or this kind of things may happen. But try to understand what I'm doing. I am handling the real life, the real people. And when I work with the real people, what I'm saying that we are working with 15,000 people, those who will be prepared themselves as an entrepreneurs. If you want to understand our social and economical aspects, AI do not have any impact. Trust me. How? If I say, ask ChatGPT, can you help me to understand or make a plan to develop Lokhipur's village? So AI give me answers. I do not know nothing about Lokhipur's. So I have some question about their intelligence. As closely, I am also working with the scientists like collective super intelligence like AGI Lab with Professor David J. Kelly. So fact is that yes, for Western world, for USA, for North America, even for Singapore, this is very important. But when you work with the grassroots level people of Bangladesh or in India or in Nepal, the scenario is different. Our still we do not have good internet connections. We have a lot of people unemployed. We have a lot of economical burden because of this wire. So if we focus and if we afraid of these things that AI will come and take my jobs, so we cannot survive. So we have to do a lot of social entrepreneurship, and we are doing this social entrepreneurship, microfinance, Islamic finance, these kind of things. Actually the backbone of our nations, micro business. So we are doing these things. Definitely, AI is important, but for my show, it's more like educational show. So I do not know if a sexy lady come. I think she or AI cannot educate my communities in my language. Let's say Tom Rose visit Bangladesh. So I advise him translate your book in Bangla. He is utilizing Chat GPT and he desperately failed because when this AI translate it in different languages, it does not have proper emotions, does not have proper word, language to touch my communities. So I have, as a scientist, I have questions how capable they are. This is really questionable. Yes, for marketing, sales, and everything, it's very big propaganda. But as I'm working with the real people and real world is 100% different. You cannot make them afraid. Hey, AI will take your job. Hey, AI gonna kill you. They don't care about these things. At least the emerging economy, they have to survive. This is real world.
They still need to get their internet connection working.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
what I see overseas, one of the big problems is the bandwidth can be weak depending what city you're in. You know, in other words, some cities I beamed in no problem. Some cities they actually had bandwidth issues. In other words, they just didn't have high speed internet.
That's true of everybody I work with in countries in Africa, for example. You know, I can't have them on a show because they don't have the bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah. And most importantly, I am talking about 2.5 billion people because in between 3 hours of plane journeys, I get 2.5 billion people. 25% of the population. I'm representing almost 25% populations. I visit a lot. I work with them. I do the beside the show. I go for the real work. Even Mr. Tom Homestoner, he also visit Chittagong, Bay of Bengal, this, that, in between 2-3 days. So we do a lot
Yeah.
of real work. So in this real work, it's actually quite difficult to bringing this kind of topic. Maybe
Yeah.
we can focus on more social entrepreneurship. We bring more problem solving issues. It can be helpful for our communities and we can get real solutions. Yes, AI is important. We have to careful about them. We have to train. Already we are providing training to our community, our university, our students. But definitely we need to work together to solve real problem. And this is 2.5 billion people. It's
Yeah.
not even
That's
million
something that AI is not going to replace. It's just like if you said, solve the gun problem in the United States, which, by the way, if you ever come here, Sharif, you'll have to dodge the bullets as you come in.
Not quite.
AI can't solve those problems. You know, they just, especially in Texas.
AI
is a
can make us
tool.
bulletproof. If we're able
What?
to download our consciousnesses into machines, then we're a little bit safer from getting shot up.
Yeah. Well, I found out that they didn't seem to have that problem in other countries because in Morocco and Spain, the murder by gun rate is 4 times less in Morocco and 10 times less in Spain. In the United States, it's like every bloody day there's a shootout. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, I felt completely safe down in Medellin, Colombia. I mean, I want to move there. It's so safe.
Safer in Colombia than in the United States.
I know.
Goodness.
I came back dodging bullets, I felt like.
Yeah, that's basically what you do here. But it sounds to me that in Bangladesh, Dr. Sharif, you guys aren't scared of the artificial intelligence taking your jobs, and you're not scared or concerned about the writers' strike and the poor writers that need to have a standard of living. Would that be correct? Excuse me, poor writers in the United States are entitled to a standard of living. Would that be correct, Dr. Sharif? Is he frozen up?
Your question it froze me up too, Nick.
Well, we said they're
Okay,
with it.
Mr. Nick, what's your question?
Oh, the question is: are you concerned about the writers' strike in the United States over in Bangladesh, or you just don't care, and their entitlement to a standard of living?
Yeah, what's Netflix's
I'm
footprint? in
concerned about
Bangladesh?
artificial intelligence. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
artificial
many people in
intelligence.
the cities and everywhere they're using the Netflix. Yeah, is that? Yeah, I am concerned about artificial intelligence. But if you see these 2.5 billion people in South Asia, we are more concerned about social entrepreneurship, solving the social problem. We have healthcare problem. We have educational challenge. We have housing problem. We have energy problems. We have water related issues. We have transportation issues. So first fix the problem, social problems. Then come to all of the big thought like AI will come and everything. Definitely we have to train our people and we are providing trainings and they can understand. But I think still there is a long way to solve real life problem. Long way to take. First, we have the real job. We have to go for the solving the social problem. This is very hard, very difficult. It's very, very difficult, very hard. I want to give special thanks to Mr. Homestone, how he support our ecosystem. When
Shout out to Homestoner.
he travel a lot with us.
Yeah. I've never met Homestoner. I will meet him maybe this month for the first time. Believe it or not.
Okay.
I've talked
I
him
want
for
to
years.
invite you all. I want to invite you all in Bangladesh. I'm sure you will enjoy and you will learn some different things. In one show, I said that the developed nations people also need to visit the emerging in Russia and Ukraine, where maybe the Putin, he don't have enough sympathy about the people. So when the leader, the global leader, they engage with the emerging economy and grassroots level people, they can understand more. They can understand their leadership ability. So our major problem is leadership, and they can learn from different cultures. We also can come, we also can learn. So this is vice versa. So there are many challenges. I do not think AI will replace or AI can solve all of the complex things. It's quite difficult for them.
Yeah. Right.
We
Oh,
need
yes,
real
and
humans
also
to solve
as-
these things.
As we're winding up, I want to congratulate you on doing 900 shows, Sharif.
Awesome.
Is that correct? 900 shows?
Thank
That
you.
is, that is
unbelievable.
900,
incredible.
yes.
Absolutely
Good job.
incredible. And with that, we're going to have to end our show because we have another show coming on.
Well,
And
Nick,
we'll
I got a question before you go. Is Kim real? Have you met her?
No,
'Cause she
she's
might
not.
be our
she's a bot.
Kim may
Yeah,
actually be
avatar.
Leah, the super
Complete
influencer for all we know.
AI.
So it could
Complete
be AI for all we know.
Believe
Not
it or
real at
not.
all.
You're making us watchable, Kim.
No, not real at all. No, she's our first bot. And we're
The
going to have
first
many
bot,
more
the Kim
bots
bot
on the
in, all
network.
in that space.
Okay. And we'll see you next week on the media show as we develop more bots. We'll be speaking as opposed to people. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.